In 2005, a 19-year-old college student named Donté Williams was sentenced to life in prison for a murder he did not commit. The only evidence against him was a single fingerprint, partial, smudged, and smaller than a dime. The prosecutor called it the smoking gun. The jury agreed. They deliberated for just 4 hours before sending a young man away for the rest of his life. But what the jury didn't know, what no one knew at the time, was that the same fingerprint had been found at 2 other crime scenes. Crimes that happened while Donté was already in jail. Crimes that took place miles away from his neighborhood. Crimes that had never been solved. This is the story of the fingerprint that didn't match. And the 9 years it stole from an innocent man. Atlanta, Georgia. November 14, 2004. A convenience store clerk named Raj Patel was closing up at 11:30 p.m. He had worked the late shift for 7 years. He was saving up to bring his parents from India to the United States. That night was supposed to be like any other. 2 men entered. One held a gun. The other acted as lookout. Raj, trained to comply, opened the register without a word. He handed over the cash, $3.40 and some change. But something went wrong. Maybe Raj moved too fast. Maybe the gunman panicked. Maybe it was never about the money at all. Raj was shot in the chest. He died before the ambulance arrived. His last word was please. The killers ran. No witnesses stayed behind. No security cameras that worked. The store owner had been meaning to replace them for months. The neighborhood was quiet that night. Too quiet. But the police found one thing, a single partial fingerprint on the counter near the cash register. It was smudged, but it was enough. Or so they thought. The print was run through the state database. It returned a match, a 19-year-old college student named Donté Williams. Donté had no criminal record, not even a parking ticket. He was studying business at Georgia State. He lived with his mother. He worked part-time at a bookstore. He had never even been to that convenience store. But the computer said match. And in 2004, that was often the end of the investigation. Donté was arrested at 2 a.m. on November 16th. He was eating cereal in his kitchen, Lucky Charms, he would later recall, because it was the only thing that felt normal anymore. You have the wrong person, he told the officers. They didn't listen. The fingerprint was the only evidence they needed. No weapon. No confession. No witness. Just a partial print. The prosecution built their entire case on that print. They said Donté was the lookout. They said he touched the counter while watching for police. They asked the jury, if he was innocent, why was his fingerprint at a murder scene? It sounded logical. It sounded damning. But juries aren't told how often fingerprints are misread. Donté's public defender was overworked and underpaid, handling nearly 200 cases at once. He didn't hire a fingerprint expert. He didn't question the lab's methods. He didn't ask about the other 2 crime scenes because he never ran the print through a wider database. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution called 4 witnesses. The defense called one, Donté himself, who said, I wasn't there. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. Life in prison without parole. Donté didn't cry in the courtroom. He just looked at his mother. She was already crying enough for both of them. Donté was sent to Georgia State Prison, a facility known for violence, overcrowding, and heat so thick you could taste it in August. He was 19 years old. He shared a cell with a man convicted of murder. He learned to keep his head down. He learned to survive. He learned that the saddest sound in the world is a prison door locking behind you when you know you're innocent. But Donté never stopped fighting. He wrote letters. Dozens of them. Hundreds. To lawyers, to journalists, to anyone who would listen. Most were ignored. Some were returned unopened. One was mocked by a public official who wrote back, "Stop wasting our paper." But one letter reached a young attorney named Sarah Klein. She was 27 years old, working pro bono with the Georgia Innocence Project. She had never taken a murder case before. She had never visited a maximum security prison. She had never held a client's hand while he described his mother crying through a glass partition. But something about Donté's letter stuck with her. He didn't beg. He didn't rage. He wrote, "I don't ask you to believe me. I just ask you to look at the fingerprint. Really look at it. Not as evidence. As a question. Sarah kept that letter in her desk drawer for the next 3 years. She looked at it every morning. Sarah requested the original fingerprint evidence, a process that took 7 months and 2 court orders. What she found shocked her. The print had been classified as a match based on only 6 matching points. The FBI standard at the time required 12 to 16 points for a positive identification. 6 points is what you might find between 2 strangers by accident. 6 points is not proof. 6 points is a suggestion. But that wasn't the worst part. Sarah ran the print through an updated federal database, one the local police hadn't used. The same print had been found at 2 other crime scenes. One was a gas station robbery in 2002. The other was a burglary in 2003. Both happened before Donté turned 17. Both happened miles from his home. Both were unsolved. Sarah drove 3 hours to a storage facility in rural Georgia to track down the other crime scene files. They were in a cardboard box marked Cold Cases 2002 to 2003. And there, in the gas station robbery file, was a name, a known criminal named Marcus Webb. Marcus had a record for armed robbery. Marcus had been arrested twice but never printed because of a clerical error. And Marcus Webb's fingerprint had never been taken, until now. Sarah submitted an emergency motion to the court. The judge was skeptical. "Another innocence claim," he said. Sarah replied, "No, Your Honor. Another fingerprint. The same one. At 3 crimes. By 3 different police departments. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern." Sarah convinced a judge to order DNA testing on the fingerprint, a new technique called touch DNA analysis that wasn't available at the time of trial. The result came back on a Tuesday. Sarah received the call at her desk. She didn't speak for 30 seconds. Then she cried. The fingerprint belonged to Marcus Webb, not Donté Williams. Marcus Webb had left his print at the convenience store. And Marcus Webb had left his print at 2 other crimes. Donté was innocent. He had always been innocent. On March 12, 2014, after 9 years in prison, Donté Williams walked free. He was 28 years old. His mother had died 2 years earlier, of a heart attack that the family always believed was brought on by grief. She never saw him released. The last thing she ever said to him through a prison phone was, "I'll be here when you get out." Marcus Webb was arrested 6 months later. He confessed to the murder during interrogation. He said he had forgotten about the convenience store because it was just another job. Donté received a $1.5 million settlement from the state of Georgia, but he says no amount of money can give him back his 20s, or the last hug from his mother, or the sound of her voice saying his name. Donté Williams is now a paralegal. He works with the same Innocence Project that freed him. He speaks at law schools, forensic conferences, and even police academies. He says the same thing to every law student, every detective, every judge who will listen. Evidence is not truth. Evidence is a question. And the question is always, did someone ask the right follow-up? There are thousands of Donté Williams stories still waiting to be told. Men and women sitting in cells right now, writing letters that may never be opened. Fingerprints that were never re-examined. Alibis that were never heard. The system is not broken because it makes mistakes. The system is broken because it so often refuses to admit them. If you believe in justice, real justice, not just conviction rates, subscribe and hit the bell. We tell the stories the system wants you to forget. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to fight. And if you're Donté still fighting after 9 years, this one's for you.